portfolio is a software engineer's greatest tool when trying to get their next job or transition into technology from some other industry. Maybe you've gone to a code school, or maybe you've been in the industry for years and you're wanting that next job. Well, let's talk about how to build a compelling portfolio that resonates with hiring managers, potential employers, so that you can get your job in tech. An important distinction that I want to draw as we jump into building a compelling portfolio is the difference between your resume and your portfolio. So your resume is a specific artifact that exists within kind of the bigger picture of your skills and your experience. In a lot of ways, it's a summary of what you've done. Maybe your personal portfolio website is a similar thing, right? It gives an overview or a sampling, but your portfolio is the entire body of work. So throughout this presentation, as we talk about building a compelling portfolio, I want you to think broader, not of a specific artifact, but of everything, the complete picture, your entire online footprint, how all of those pieces come together to tell the story of your work experience. I know in the interview process, usually when you're applying for a job, you're gonna give a lot of different links. You're gonna give a personal portfolio if you have it, a resume. You may also include a LinkedIn profile as well as a GitHub URL. All of those things are artifacts that contribute to your overall portfolio. As you're thinking about your portfolio, you may wonder where you get started. My encouragement would be to Google yourself. So go to google.com, and yes, it's going to be a little bit awkward, and type in your name. Maybe you have a very common name, in which case go type in your name and then add the city that you live to the back end of that search query and see what comes up. Here you can take a quick glimpse at my Google search results. And I put this here not to celebrate some massive accomplishment. Nowadays, to rank on Google for your name is not that much of an accomplishment, but what I want to call out is a few of the online profiles that really stand out in somebody's search result. So what you'll notice is the first search result is LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a very strong presence on Google, and for professionals, it's where most people are going to learn about somebody's past experience. Next up is my personal portfolio website. This is morganjlopes.com. And the third one on the list is Twitter. And maybe you're not a big Twitter fan. There's a lot of changes happening over at Twitter constantly. And that could just be something that you're like, I don't know what to do with that. That's totally fine. The value of having a Twitter profile isn't necessarily in it being a place that you're very active, but Twitter does have a prominence when it comes to search results. Here's a list of online portfolios that you should be considering as you enter in technology, or maybe you're getting back out there looking to start applying to jobs. There's a lot to cover. And the first thought should not be, oh, I have to go become active on all of these different places. That's a lot to manage. But at the very least, go and create your profile on these accounts, and they can start to add a lot of weight behind the work that you're doing to highlight your skills and experience, one that is often missed or left out as people think about their online portfolio is Stack Overflow. And I want to call this out because I think Stack Overflow has a few very practical use cases. And the first one is when you create a profile on Stack Overflow, you can upvote questions. I have a photo here of my profile on Stack Overflow, and the reality is I haven't contributed in years. Early on, I answered a number of questions. I think, you can look and see I answered 18 questions or provided 18 answers to questions. And slowly but surely over time, people are still finding those valuable. And those small investments early on have really added up over the arc of using this piece of technology, which really hasn't changed a lot, even in the last 10 years. As you think about all of these online profiles, a few things come to mind that really helps hiring managers as they are reviewing your application. And consistency is key. So when I think of consistency for online profiles, I'm thinking your name, your bio, your photo, and your username if you can get it. Now, why does consistency matter? Well, when I'm going through and reviewing an application, what I'll usually do is I'll pull up the application, and then I'll click all of the links and open up the individual links of a specific applicant in a number of different tabs. And then item by item, I'll review each tab and try and form a mental picture of who this applicant is, what their skills and experience may be, more often than you would believe, which is as I move from tab to tab, I'm not sure if I have the same person. Maybe their name is different. It could be a nickname or different spellings of their name or different variations. It could be that their photos are wildly different. Maybe their photos don't have a photo of them at all, so it makes it very hard to anchor and understand who you're looking at. Or their bios could be across the map, mentioning all kinds of other jobs and things that don't seem to overlap at face value. Well, now what's happened is the hiring manager is spending time trying to just understand what's going on here instead of trying to dive into your specific application. And so that time and that energy and those mental cycles that are being wasted could be better spent trying to understand you and give you a shot at the job that you want. And so consistency is key. A phrase that I keep in mind quite a bit is that people do not choose the best. People choose what they can understand the best. And how are you helping the hiring manager understand what you're all about and ultimately who you are? We're gonna do a spotlight here on LinkedIn. So I'm gonna focus on LinkedIn first as one of the primary contributors to your online portfolio. LinkedIn is super important in the professional world. Recruiters, hiring managers often turn to LinkedIn first. So there's a number of strategies that I'm gonna go through to improve your LinkedIn presence. You can take a look here, but let's go ahead and dive in. The first is to improve your portfolio. People don't choose the best. People choose what they understand the best. And so how quickly can somebody look at your LinkedIn profile and understand what you're about? The first thing I would call attention to, your header image. A header image usually is just real estate that people upload some random photo, but it could be used as a way to grab attention and further communicate what you're all about. In this case, you can see here, this was back when we had launched Code School, the book that supports people transitioning into tech. And so I used that header real estate to actually send a message to people checking out the profile. Next up is a professional headshot, a photo of you that's clean, that's simple, that's well lit, and represents what somebody might expect to see when the Zoom call fires up, or if you're meeting for coffee or something like that. You want to let them know, hey, this is not a blind date. This is who I am. Third item on the list is a clear tagline. This little phrase or series of sentences that you can put into your LinkedIn profile, first of all, might be the first impression when you make a connection request, but also it allows somebody to at a glance understand who you are. But one thing, and probably the last thing I'll say about this tagline, don't bury the lead. Many people will almost write it and build up to the most important thing. But when you make a connection request, LinkedIn will actually shorten this into the first couple of words. And so put the most compelling part first. So if you're a software engineer seeking a new position, then lead with that. Or maybe lead with the programming languages that you are able to work in. Putting that last often means people aren't even gonna read it in the first place. Now, a helpful bio. So think about this with your bio, but then also as you write descriptions for the past companies that you've worked at. In both cases, you want to be very clear. I personally find it easy to write in third person because as somebody's skimming, it reinforces what my name is and whose profile that they're on. Also, as you think about the descriptions, write them not about the business, right? So if you're writing a description about the company that you've worked for, it shouldn't be about that company. I personally, when I was younger, worked at Home Depot. And so I wouldn't write about explaining to the reader what Home Depot is. What I would do is I would write about my contribution to the company, maybe achievements that I've unlocked or things that I've done within the company that have made an impact. That description should be helpful in telling them about you and your contribution. And lastly, itemize your experience. There could be a chance that you worked in consulting or you worked for a company that most of your job was collaborating with other businesses. Well, in that case, you can actually use LinkedIn and break those into separate experiences. If you go to my LinkedIn, which I encourage you to do, absolutely issue a connection request. I'm a default yes for people in software engineering roles, especially code school and bootcamp students. I want to do everything I can to help, but you'll notice on my profile that I have spent a large chunk of my career with Polar Notion, which is an agency that built technology for other people. But in that company, I worked with dozens of other businesses. And so I itemized each of those companies that reflect the type of work that I want to do more of. And so I was very clear that I was a consultant for those businesses, but I put those companies on my LinkedIn as well. That allows others who are reading through this to get a better sense of the work that you have done. And so if you've collaborated with other companies, and if it's within inside of what they allow you to do within your terms of working there, then go ahead and put those other companies on your LinkedIn as well. And just make sure you're being very clear that, hey, this is a consultation, this is an internship, whatever the nature of that relationship is, spell it out. But you can often deviate from just the standard who was on my paycheck kind of connection that people do within their LinkedIn experience. Next within LinkedIn is make more connections. A connection is not some sacred thing, especially at this day and age. No one's profile that I've seen is limited to only the people that they know really, really well and would vouch for. It's a much broader thing, but what I have here is a glimpse at my connection list from one point in time. And I want to just pause for a second and let you take a look. You'll notice that there are certain people or certain connection requests that stand out, and then some that kind of just are vague and you almost don't know what to do with. The most compelling ones, their name is clear, their photo is really sharp, and also I have a lot of overlapping connections with them, right? Those are pretty compelling. But then at the bottom, you'll see one where they are the only person who included a note. And by doing that, they're actually taking up more space in my view, which in this case is a very positive thing because now they gave me some context of, okay, here's how I might know them. And so while they may not have the most number of connections, it's clear that we've crossed paths in some real way. And so a message can also be helpful. One of my last points here on LinkedIn is post content. So few people post on LinkedIn. On the graph from the top right, what you'll notice is there's a lot of ups and downs in viewership on my profile. Now, I don't know if the numbers are very good or not. What I can tell you is there's a correlation between when the graph is going up and going down, and that is posting content. So the times that I post, viewership on my profile goes up. The times that I don't, it starts to lag. And posting doesn't have to just be you entering into the box of like a status update. It could be comments, it could be engaging, but doing things on LinkedIn usually drives more views to your profile. What you'll also notice from the graph on the right is this steady climb over time comes from consistency. There could be some spikes or some big jumps, but most of the time, the most steady progress came when I was posting and engaging on the platform consistently. Add variety. People like to see different things, so don't just throw a list of the same text-based thing over and over again. You can add videos, you can use polls, you can even ask questions or reshare with others. All of that adds to a complete picture of posting content on LinkedIn, which can lead to more views on your profile. Okay, for the next spotlight, we are going to talk about GitHub. GitHub is the home for developers collaborating, sharing code, working on projects. One way to improve your GitHub profile is your README. So GitHub actually allows you to override the typical profile homepage with stuff that you care about. So you can look up their README, it's kind of like an Easter egg, or their README feature for profiles. And what you'll notice from this screenshot here is that I've been able to customize most of the first things that people see when they come to my GitHub profile. I've elevated certain social links that I actually use. I've included some work history in here, and I've put links to my writing. Well, why would I do that? If I've perhaps included a blog somewhere else, it's because we want to repeat ourselves. So we want to make sure that as people come and whenever they start to really dial in and understand us, that they can get to the most important things. So there's no harm in repeating yourself in each of those different profiles. You don't know which door somebody's going to be coming into and how you might be able to direct them to each important part of what you're doing. Also, a few other examples here on how you can improve your GitHub profile. Pin repositories. Ideally, you've got a lot of repositories that are being created as you're learning and contributing code to different things. And so pin the important stuff can be a great way of helping those projects stand out. The next thing we're going to spotlight is your personal website. This is your primary domain, and while it's not the most important part of your overall portfolio, it is something worth spending time and spending energy. And I get a lot of questions about where and how you should spend time and energy on your personal website. So let's dive into some ways that you can really improve your personal website. My first recommendation, use a template. Most hiring managers aren't gonna really give you credit for having built it from scratch by yourself. However, if they come to a site that's clean, that's well organized, that's well designed, they'll start to spend more of the time on the important stuff, which is reviewing the content, the substance of your personal website. So using a template allows you to get all of that other setup and all of those things out of the way and start spending time on making contributions to items in your portfolio. Next is adding references. If you think about the interview process, reference checks are usually very late in an interview. It could be step 6, 7, 8, 9. For many companies, it's one of the last things they do before they make a hiring decision. Well, most candidates are eliminated earlier in the process, step 1, 2, 3. So what does that mean? That means there's a massive gap between when you come into the hiring process and when most people get knocked out and actually getting a chance to flex one of the most compelling things about a candidate. An easy way to circumvent that is going and getting those references and adding them to your personal website. Much like testimonials, if you were to purchase a product or customer reviews, putting those on your personal website can help make sure that one of the strongest tools you have to getting a job is front and center. Now, if you're just getting started in your career, you may be thinking, well, Morgan, I don't have any tech references. Who said they had to be tech? One of the things that's usually coming out of a reference check is actually, how is this person? How are they as a team member? How is working with them? Talk to me about their habits, their skills, their discipline, all of these things that don't usually pertain as much to the specific work itself. Now, if you're entering a super specialized field, that may be different, but for most of us, getting a job where we're gonna be writing code that gets live and sent to all kinds of users, and it's less specific or nuanced, really what that reference check is doing is making sure this is a good person, a good teammate. And so you may have been coming into technology from a different career, and I would encourage you to reach out to past relationships and get a reference that is vouching for you as a person, because that is what reference checks are usually all about. My next recommendation for a personal website is better work examples. I'm gonna give you a couple of ways to think about better work examples here, but before I do, I wanna allow you to get a free sample, so this is free, of a personal portfolio template. Your personal website template, you can scan the QR code. It gives you access to a GitHub repository. You can pull this down. I would encourage you to swap out all of my stuff. Please do. This is not your information. It's just a template that you can use based on what I've pre-filled so that you can have a simple, structured personal website. So claim your free personal website template here. And it has all of the elements that I think a personal website should include. And if you don't have one, then go ahead and take what I have. There's a number of things that are also commented out that you can toggle between calls to action and things like that. Now, when I think of better work samples, better examples of the types of things that you've done, as you're thinking about a title, you could make up your own name for some project, or you could be very clear, right? Clear is better than clever. And so if you've rebuilt Twitter, then I would call it a Twitter clone. You don't have to rename what that clone is, but be specific so that as I read the title, I know what I'm expecting on the other end. You can provide a quick overview. Most people will just link to the GitHub project, but one way to do a step up from that is provide direct links into pull requests within the project so somebody can see your specific contributions. For many people in their portfolio, it was very much a group project, maybe a team built that technology. And so direct linking into specific pull requests is one of the easiest ways to highlight your contributions. And so instead of expecting a hiring manager to just meander their way through some big project, direct link them into exact examples of the stuff that you have done. And you can gain a lot of knowledge and understanding about a software engineer by looking at their pull request. Next thing is a demo URL. So keep in mind that when you set up a demo environment for a portfolio item, those can break over time. I've seen so many portfolio websites that are clear and clean and polished, but then I click that demo link and it's broken. I notice, oh, well, this is probably from a long time ago. And it's really hard to fight that ever-changing tide of time that can just wear away at free servers and things like that. And so my recommendation instead, so you can do both, but I would recommend instead to do a video walkthrough. 1, 2 to 3 minutes max of you walking somebody through each item in your portfolio. That allows you to choose the happy path. I've clicked on a lot of demos with a lot of broken links. Or worse, I've clicked on a demo and I don't really know what to do because I don't have enough information or the same context that you had when you created the piece. But a video walkthrough allows you to explain the context, allows you to provide a clear, unbroken experience, and this is one of the best parts, they get to see how you interact, how you talk, how you explain things, and that is an important part of the decision-making process when looking for a job. We're gonna do a quick run through of my personal website. So putting myself on blast here, I wanna call out a number of the things that I've done that hopefully make my site easy, simple to use, and implementing a number of the suggestions that I have given to you. So this is my personal website, morganjlopes.com. The first thing is I'm calling out something new that I'm working on. So I'm always contributing to my portfolio. I'm working on a YouTube channel with generative AI, and so I'd encourage you to check that out. But I put that right at the top, right? So that is both a call out and a feature of my personal website, and it is me building out a new artifact that I can add to my portfolio. As I come down, you'll notice that there's a unique style and a look. And this came about because I saw a website from a company that I really respect and love, and they were evolving their brand quite a bit, but I liked their old website. And so I went and I pulled a number of the design elements, like this kind of squiggly paper torn background and some of the font sizing and things like that. I just borrowed it from what they were doing. I implemented it myself. I found another website that had this font that I really loved, and so I tracked down that font and I went and I'm using that here. As I come through, you'll notice that I actually am using Icons 8, and I bought access to this library. So for a few bucks, I have a bunch of icons that all look the same and they have a similar style. I also matched the primary color of my personal website to the color of those icons. As I come through, I'm using Calendly as a way for people to schedule their calls. So I didn't build something custom. I just used some simple technology that already exists. And there you have it. As you come a little bit lower, you can also see a printed list of all of the different freebies and side projects that I've created front and center. And so people can click out and start to explore a lot of the fun stuff that I've worked on over the years. And in those cases, I've linked them out so it opens up a new window. They can play around, close it, and then be right back to my personal website. Most of this was appropriated from other stuff I've seen online or combining different things that I've seen like stock images. I even mentioned that intro video of how to make your personal website more compelling, more engaging, and here we have it. I've used Loom to record it and I've embedded it directly into my website. Throughout, I've added a number of different videos that explain what's going on here. So pretty simple, easy to interact with, not a lot going on. I would say I spent at most an hour and a half total with the design aesthetic on this website. It was built using Twitter Bootstrap. So in many things, combining tools to get to something simple, and then I can spend time making contributions into my unique portfolio. People want to know how to differentiate yourself. Easiest way to differentiate yourself is to write. It doesn't have to be a massive effort where you create this blog and then you blog every day forever. No, I would encourage you to start with 2 pieces. Write 2 blog posts. Don't create your own blog, create a Medium account and post these 2 onto Medium. And I have 2 prompts for you. So if you have wanted to write or you've thought about writing as a way of setting yourself apart, but don't know where to start, here are 2 prompts that I think almost any person in technology could write. Does a great job of cluing a hiring manager or somebody reviewing your profile into who you are and what you do, but also what drives you and what motivates you, what interests you most about technology. So fill in the blank. From teacher to software engineer, from bartender to software engineer, right? Fill in whatever your previous thing was to software engineer and tell us about that journey. Also, there could be certain areas of life that you really love. These could be hobbies, these could be interests. Connect those dots for us as to how this could come together. Personally, I live life at the intersection of entrepreneurship, technology, and social impact. So those are 3 things that interest me a lot, that I care about. And so I could write a piece about life at the intersection of entrepreneurship, technology, and social impact. And that would be a piece that's unique to me, right? Because not everybody cares about those things in the same way or would combine them quite like I do. Right, so 2 unique pieces that'll help you stand apart. Now, I want to give you an example. It could be really easy to hear a lot of this and think, wow, that's a lot of information, or okay, but you've been doing this for so long, how could I ever expect to catch up or do something as comprehensive as what you're talking about? Well, I want to spotlight my friend Annie. And I have talked to her years ago and got permission to share her examples here. She did a great job coming out of code school, having all of these things in place. Her brand was super consistent. My example of including references in your portfolio website came from Annie, and seeing it and thinking, oh my gosh, that's great. So I went and I added personal references, or testimonials is what she calls them, to my personal website by seeing Annie doing it. And this was not years after she graduated. This was right coming out of school, and I came across her work and I came across her portfolio and thought, wow, this is somebody who's doing it well. I would encourage you to go check out Annie almost immediately. Right? This is not years in the making here. This is weeks and months of diligent effort. She was able to rank for her name in Google. She also created a very clever username, Annie Bombani, and she has an awesome, I think, fun, playful, lightning bolt unicorn vibe. So she even uses those emojis as a way of differentiating herself. And so as I moved between Annie's different artifacts in her portfolio, it was clear that, oh, this is the same person. And this person has put some intentionality behind this. Many of you may be thinking, okay, but I like being off the grid and I don't want to be findable. And really, there are two ends of the spectrum. I think there are people who don't want to be searchable, in which case I should be impressed because I can't find you. But for most people, they kind of fall somewhere in the middle, which tells me they don't know enough to be on the other end, which is well curated, thoughtful. There's a number of tools that you can use to polish your experience. Today, there is no reason that a portfolio looks haphazard or chaotic or doesn't embody a high level of quality. There are places you can go that are directory of icons, photos. Most of these things are free, or you pay a little bit and get access to an entire library. It's pretty compelling. I'll deep dive on a few, but I want to encourage you to start exploring ways to improve the quality of the experience of your portfolio. Okay, this is Icons 8. It's a library of a ton of animated and static illustrations of all kinds of styles and shapes and colors. It's a great way of finding a consistent icon palette throughout your portfolio. This is Creative Market. It's a high quality marketplace of tools and templates that you can use to improve the design aesthetic of your personal portfolio. So you may be looking for a WordPress theme, or you can get static HTML and CSS. Maybe you want a Canva template or just some icons to go along with the work you're doing. Creative Market is a great place. Most of their stuff is pretty inexpensive when you consider the time it is saving. Undraw is a great tool that gives you a standard style of vector illustrations, but what I love the most is that you can really easily change the color. And so there's a color picker at the top, and you can adjust the colors, and then now every icon is appropriately shifted where the primary color has updated. So if you have a certain brand color or look that you like to go for, you can put in that color, and now you have a bunch of illustrations that match the same style. If you haven't heard about Unsplash, that's okay. It's a library of stock images that's high quality, it's free, and available to just download at the different resolutions that you want. They do have Unsplash Plus images that you can pay to access, but their free stuff is excellent and can be a great way of using a more polished, higher quality stock photo than just those common stock photo websites. Okay, this is a lot of information. You may be thinking, wow, I don't know where to begin. Well, I've given you a list of 8 things you can do. This should take less than 20 minutes. 8 things you can do in 20 minutes that will significantly improve your portfolio. This will make it easier for a hiring manager to understand what you're about. This will make it easier for potential references or others who are trying to understand and maybe recommend you for a position. All of those things come together with a little bit of effort and a little bit of time. So here's the checklist. I would encourage you to start stepping through each of these. The first, add an intro video about yourself. Loom.com is a free tool where you can record a video of yourself. You can do screen recordings as well, but film a simple introduction video. Next up is push all of your projects to GitHub. They're living on your computer. Push them up to GitHub. Item number 3, claim your username on the most common public profiles. You don't have to become active on those profiles. Just go claim that piece of real estate for yourself, allowing that victory by 1,000 wins to add up in your favor. Item number 4, update your LinkedIn to be clear, not clever. Over time, it's worth it for all of us to go back and revisit our LinkedIn profile through the lens of somebody who's never met us before. And how can we make it easier for them to understand us? Item number 5, match your name and photo across all public profiles. Over the years, maybe you've created some or they're kind of left out there floating in the internet. Go through and either delete the ones you have no intention of using or standardize them all together. Item number 6 of things you can do right now to improve your portfolio: gather 2 to 3 references. And then as they come in, add them to your website. One suggestion that I've heard somebody use before is you write the reference from them and then ask for their permission to put their name on it. You've made the bar so low for them to vouch for you. And many people love the simplicity of being like, oh yeah, I agree with everything that's here. Go for it. That sounds great. Item number 7, publish 1 to 2 short pieces of content. Don't get lost creating your own blog. Go to Medium, create an account, and start writing. And item number 8, go write more code. There's nothing that compares to just putting in the time, putting in the work, investing in yourself, and learning to improve your craft. There you have it. We've covered a lot of ground together. How to create a compelling portfolio. Everything from thinking differently about just a single artifact like a resume or your personal website into the full picture of your entire online presence and everything that you've done, your full body of work as your portfolio, how to make it better, how to improve LinkedIn, how to optimize your GitHub profile, suggestions to improve the quality of your personal website, and more. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and questions below in the comments. Until next time.